when you don't have a foundation of policies that you truly believe in, that you are trying to push forward, and you dictate your policy off of other people so that you can one up them. In this instance, he's trying to one up Trump. I'm being so serious. Uduak here, connecting people with policy. I don't know why I be thinking I can sing. Okay, let me stop. Okay, y'all. Before we begin today's video, make sure you press that subscribe button, like, comment, share, turn on post notifications so you're notified whenever I post a new video, and don't forget to follow me on my social media. Y'all, today's video, we are watching pretty much DeSantis. I think it's the actual press conference of his speech or whatever. Not necessarily his speech, but he's addressing the stuff that has been going on in Florida. A lot of things has been going on in Florida, y'all. Like, I don't care if you're a Republican, I don't care if you're a Democrat. A lot of the stuff that has been going on is on a moral level, like principle level. The most recent was the new teaching. I think this is what he's addressing. The new standards that was set for how slavery should be taught in the state of Florida. And some of the specifics that were included in that agenda was pretty much insinuating that slaves benefited from slavery, and like kind of made it as if they were slave owners were doing slaves a favor in a sense. That's not what it is word for word, but that's like pretty much summarizing it. Another thing out of the agenda was kind of like, I'm gonna put the agenda, I'm gonna see if I can find the excerpt of the agenda, but there's a lot in there that I can't even break up in just one video. But another thing that was added was kind of like trying to water down slavery to cater to feelings in a sense, which I 100% disagree with. I truly believe, not even with slavery, when it comes to the Holocaust, when it comes to anything in the history of this country, when it is being taught, you have to teach it to its raw form, because that's how people fully understand, and that's how it prevents repetition. So if we sugarcoat slavery and we insinuate, oh yeah, slaves, they benefited from it, they learned a lot of new traits, a lot of working, like trying to sugarcoat it for what? For why? We haven't even started in the video and already getting me heated, but let me simmer down. Let me simmer down just a little bit. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and watch MSNBC Morning Joe. It's titled, "I Didn't Do It. DeSantis distances himself from Florida's new teaching standards." Let's begin, because I'm actually really excited. I'm a little bit like, okay, not on edge, but a little like, you did do it type of vibe. But let's go.
Ron DeSantis appears to be trying to distance himself from the recent changes that have been made to his state's public school curriculum. Now, last week, the Florida Board of Education approved new guidelines for teaching.
That's what it was. That's the word, personal benefit. African Americans received some personal benefit from slavery. Like, y'all, be for real. Like, this is not, be for real. At this point, you're just playing with fire.
Black history.
I'm not a DeSantis fan. If you follow me, you already knew that, but.
Which suggests that enslaved people reaped benefits from skills acquired during centuries of forced labor. Reaped benefits. The move comes just months after DeSantis criticized an advanced placement course on African American studies. The changes are now facing significant backlash. Vice President Kamala Harris visited Jacksonville on Friday and slammed the new curriculum, calling it...
Comment below if you want me to do a reaction on this specific speech that Kamala did, because she said some things in there that was completely, I wouldn't say untrue. Well, she said some things in there that was not the full truth, but I don't know if it was intentional or if it was like, you know, when you're speaking and you're talking and you like slip words. Like, I don't know what the case would be, but I saw clips of it, but I didn't see the whole thing. So like, I don't know if I should do a reaction. Comment down below if you want a reaction video on that. But
extremist propaganda. This prompted DeSantis to defend his state while also denying any personal responsibility for the new education standards. Take a listen.
Well, you should talk to them about it. I mean, I didn't do it, and I wasn't involved in it. But I think what they're doing is I think that they're probably going to show some of the folks that eventually parlayed, being a blacksmith into doing things later in life. But the reality is all of that is rooted in whatever is factual. They listed everything out. And if you have any questions about it, just ask the Department of Education. You can talk about those folks. But I mean, these were scholars who put that together. It was not anything that was done politically.
But the thing with DeSantis is he opens the gate for things, and you can't throw rocks and hide your hands. Like, if you're going to do something, stand 10 toes down. Like, if you truly believe something, stand 10 toes down. Like, this is another reason why a lot of Republicans aren't supporting him as he thought it would, like in the polls for his presidential run. Like, his poll numbers aren't doing good because it's like you're trying, like, this. Oh, okay. So for one, DeSantis, he doesn't have, like, for example, I think with DeSantis, let me just gather my thoughts. Multiple things. For one, DeSantis, he came out, he thought, he was coming out strong, he was getting all this attention or whatever, but he came out trying to push that line and push that limit because he thought that's what was needed in order to get the people's support, specifically for his presidential run. He thought, oh, as long as Trump is right here, as long as I keep pushing that line, or as long as Trump is right here, as long as I keep pushing that line further than what Trump is doing, they'll love me. No. Like, a lot of people are starting to see through him. Like, literally. And the fact that, like, you want to throw stones and hide your hands as if you didn't open that door for something like this to happen. Like, be for real. I don't know. You have to ask them. You're the governor. Like.
Sure. Some Republican presidential candidates are also speaking out against the Florida Board of Education's new guidelines. Former Congressman Will Hurd wrote on Twitter this: unfortunately, it has to be said, slavery wasn't a jobs program that taught beneficial skills. It was literally dehumanizing and subjugated people as property because they lacked any rights or freedoms.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this is not even Democrats versus Republicans, right versus left, blue versus blue. This is just common sense. Common sense, y'all. I don't care if you're a DeSantis fan or not. You have to admit he's wrong in this. This is common sense. Like, you can't reverse. You can't, like, sugarcoat and, like, change the narrative of what slavery is. Like, and he's the person that people are pointing fingers at. Even people in his own party is pointing fingers at him like, dude, what are you doing? Like, he thought this is what he needed to gain that traction. Like, no.
Here's what Christie had to say, too.
I didn't do it and I'm not involved in it are not the words of leadership.
At all.
Look, Governor DeSantis started this fire with the bill that he signed. And now he doesn't want to take responsibility for whatever is done in the aftermath of it. And from listening and watching his comments, he's obviously uncomfortable. He only started to focus on this when he decided he wanted to run for president and try to get to the right of Donald Trump. And so I think people see this as politically manipulative. And I'm talking about, Margaret, we're dividing our country into smaller and smaller and smaller pieces. Yeah. And politicians are pitting them against each other to create conflict. And that's not going to make the country bigger, better, stronger, or freer. It just makes it divisive.
So, Eugene, let's just start.
Exactly. Like, DeSantis knew what he was doing. Another thing, so that y'all know I'm not biased. I'm not a Christie fan either. I'm not a big fan of his. Well, I have respect for him, but I'm not, like, a fan of his either. The more you watch my channel, the more you know I'm not the biggest fan of politicians. I'm more so focused on people's policy and have, that's a different conversation. Anyways, but he's not wrong. He hit the target. Like, literally, Chris Christie hit the target on this one. DeSantis knows what he is doing, and I feel like he feels like, oh dang, I pushed a little bit too hard, too much. Now, like, he's trying to backtrack a little. Like, come on,
with how inaccurate and offensive some of this teaching is from the Florida new curriculum there. but also how Governor DeSantis and his anti-woke policies have put him in a box with speaking to a seemingly smaller and smaller portion of the electorate.
This is what happens when you base your entire kind of political career on this. When you say that everybody needs to be anti-woke, this is where you end up. And when you talk to folks in Florida.
Exactly. Like, okay, I'm gonna stop pausing because I know I'll be tired so much, but okay. Number one, this is why it's important to have a personality outside of politics. Mainly because if you don't, everything you do, literally everything you do, becomes who you are. Him being a walking example. Two, when you don't have a foundation of policies that you truly believe in, that you are trying to push forward, and you dictate your policy off of other people so that you can one-up them. In this instance, he's trying to one-up Trump. I'm being so serious. But the thing with Trump, whether you're a Trump fan or not, Trump has some sort of foundation that he doesn't really move on and off from. Like, I feel like Trump genuinely believes the policies he tries to push forward. Whether you agree with the policies or not, not a lot. I would say about 30% of his policies, 40% I disagree with. But he has a solid foundation of policies that he just doesn't maneuver based off of, like, what people love. Like, you know what I'm saying? With DeSantis, it's like he doesn't have like a solid foundation. It's just always like trying to push that line further and further, and people see it.
The whole point of the bill that came through, this is in reaction to a bill that he wanted. It was making clear what he wanted to folks.
Yeah.
And it's because he felt, and a lot of people around this country are starting to feel, that we can't teach the correct history of this country because it makes white kids uncomfortable. That is at the base of this, right? That it is uncomfortable to hear that people that look like you put people that look like me in chains and made them do things and beat them.
But what is this concept of just like, we can't just tiptoe around facts to cater to feelings. Sorry, not sorry. Like, when I learned about the Holocaust growing up, it made everybody like uncomfortable, because it's like, wow, this really happened. Like, these are human beings. Why would they do this? And this, that, and the third. But it taught us something. Like, it put life in a perspective. It put us in a position to where we got to ensure that this does not happen again, whether it was in our country or not. The same thing with slavery. Yes, you think white folks are uncomfortable learning about slavery? How about black kids sitting in the rooms? That's like their ancestors. They're uncomfortable. But we have to go through these emotions to ensure it does not happen again. We can't be sugarcoating facts to cater to feelings. Point blank, period. And if we're too worried about the feelings of people, like we have so much so that we have to twist the truth and feed them lies, then how far are we going as a country? How far are we going as people? Come on now.
And rape them. That is uncomfortable for kids to hear. That is what these folks are saying. But then when you use that as a political cudgel, you have to own it, right? At this point, this is on Ron DeSantis. He may not have created these policies with the school board, but at the end of the day, he made it very clear to what he wanted to the folks in that state.
Yeah, no, completely agree. I think you have to put it in the context that there's been an effort to sort of desanitize American history, specifically American colonial history, and this was done in that context. The actual curriculum, if you read it, it's just one line, right? It's just one line. It does use the word benefit, and that obviously is problematic.
Yeah.
And what's striking to me, beyond just that it got to this point to begin with, which is crazy, is that there's not someone in that orbit, in his universe, who has the maturity and the capacity to say, this wording is problematic, maybe we can go back and revise it. We recognize that we've sort of lit a fire, let's try to revamp it. Because that would be sort of a rational, human thing to do, is like, look, we didn't...
True. As a response, that is more rational, human thing to do. However, it shouldn't have gone to that point to begin with. If we're really being honest, why did it even get to that point to where someone has to now go back in their tracks and fix what they did? Why did you do it? Why did you feel comfortable enough to even put this out there as a school board? Like,
I don't mean to offend anyone. let us, scrub it and replace it with something else. But in
But that's the thing, they did mean to offend people. But
a political context, you can never admit that you've made a misstep. And more importantly, I think for DeSantis, he doesn't want to back down from something that goes with his brand, which is we are going to push back against all these efforts to promote diversity and inclusion, and we want to sanitize our history.
Go
ahead.
And, I mean,
to be honest, even if I was a registered Republican, I wouldn't even vote for DeSantis. I'm being so honest. Like, if I was a registered Republican, I would actually want to see someone like, even though he's not running, someone like Mitt Romney. I feel like Mitt Romney is very level-headed. He's very fair when it comes to conversations as well. I disagree with some things he does, and I disagree with the amount of money he takes from the NRA is actually ridiculous. I don't know if it's as much as that's a different conversation. But someone like Mitt Romney, highly respectable. When I think of Republican, I think of someone like him. If I was registered under Republican Party, I wouldn't even vote for DeSantis.
It
Like,
has
I feel
real
like he's
impact on the state, his
just
anti-woke
pushed the
agenda,
line.
because Florida has a teacher shortage now, right? It has become harder for people in the state to want to teach.
Yeah, and this we'll get into a little later in the show some of the fundraising issues that DeSantis is having right now, and staff firings he's had to conduct. But Jackie, this just seems like it's another political fight that he's picked and now losing.
He's not raising as much, obviously, when he first started, which is clear that's prone to happen. But he had to cut back on his staff because the funds wasn't there to support the amount of people he had on staff.
I mean,
I think it was
even just
90 or
looking
something like
at
that.
His body language during that statement, it was like bobblehead DeSantis was back. But it does, and as 2016,
that the other Republicans are afraid to make, and he is having a ton of fun.
Certainly he's positioning himself as truth teller, and if Donald Trump skips that first debate, you can imagine Governor Christie
Afraid to make, and he is nomination. You talked about his body language showing how uncomfortable he is. Look at Chris Christie's body language. Is anyone in this campaign having more
off? It sort of feels like Rick Perry, a la 2016, had some, or Scott Walker as well. I guess a handful of them for that matter.
You talked about his body language showing how uncomfortable he is. Look at Chris Christie's body language. Is anyone in this campaign having more fun than Chris Christie? Because the chances of him getting the nomination pretty low. I mean, maybe if some kind of bank shot against New Hampshire. But he is making the case that the other Republicans are afraid to make, and he is having a ton of fun.
Certainly he's positioning himself as truth teller, and if Donald Trump skips that first debate, you can imagine Governor Christie is going to train his fire on Governor
The truth
DeSantis.
teller who is the first to endorse
No, of
Donald
course.
Trump.
We should never lose that context, the validation he gave Trump back in 2016. The Washington Post's Jackie Alamany.
Okay, that's pretty much it, y'all. If Trump, I really hope Trump does not skip the first debate. Because if he skips the first debate, number one, I personally, for my selfish reasons, don't want him to skip it because I feel like it's just going to be very entertaining to see like him come out, first debate and everything. Like, that's just my selfish reason. But even aside from that, like, if Trump were to skip the first debate, that would not be a smart decision strategically, in my opinion. Because him skipping the first debate, you're creating an opportunity for people who are lower in the polls to grab the attention of the viewers, to grab your voters, to potentially grab your supporters. Like Vivek Ramaswamy, he's very likable. I did a video on him on Breakfast Club whenever he was on there. Vivek Ramaswamy, he's actually a likable guy. So when you provide that opportunity for people to, give other people a chance, even though they have their mind made up that, okay, I want Trump type of vibe, then that's gonna hurt him more than it will help him. But I don't think he'll skip it. But anyways, I don't know why I'm talking about Trump. This is about DeSantis. See, I be getting out trapped because DeSantis is like, never mind. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Did DeSantis go too far? If you don't think he's going too far, quite frankly, you're part of the issue, in my opinion, at least, because even people on the right can see that he's going too far. So, yeah. Like, comment, subscribe, follow me on my social media. And yeah, y'all have a beautiful, beautiful, blessed day. This is Uduak, connecting people with policy. Toodles.